Yo, what's up, everybody? How we doing today? How we doing? Excited to see you guys here. Today is another episode of BatchDriven Live. I am Matt Beard. It's the first time you're tuning in. We talk about tips and tricks of being efficient with the BatchDriven app. You guys are probably familiar by now with Bryce. Bryce goes live every single day at 4:30, so we don't want you guys missing out on his live. So be sure to check those out. He's in the field every single day. So we're here to provide value, guys. We're here to help you any way that we possibly can. We're here to be your support. So we want you guys to participate on these lives. We want you to come in, ask good questions, and that's the reason why we do it. We want to provide value. We want to answer you guys' questions. So as we come in, we want to see you guys comment in your comment section, whether you're in Facebook, whether you're in YouTube. Want to see where you guys are at. Where are you at right now? As far as market is concerned, what's working for you, what's not working. Ask some good questions before we get started. Last week, guys, we started talking about the pros and cons of driving for dollars physically versus virtually, right? Of course, just a quick recap of that. If you're getting started, one of the best ways to get started is driving for dollars. It's what we talk about every single week, right? Every single week we talk about driving for dollars, and it's cheap. It's a great way to get started. You're building a niche list, so you can call them and text them. There's a good chance because this person is unable to address the issues with their house. They're probably having some sort of financial distress. That is our assumption. Maybe by us working together and giving them a cash offer, it'll solve whatever's going on in their life. Obviously, we're going to be a problem solver. There's typically more levels than just the house, right? Typically, there's more things going on in their life. If we can be the problem solvers, if we can be the people to help them, we're going to be able to get the deal at a good price, and we're able to work together, and they're able to get something that they're happy with as well. So that's what we've been talking about. Physical versus virtual. Which one's better, right? Of course, the pros of physically driving for dollars is you're in front of the property. So it gives you all the leverage. It gives you, if you want to go knock on the door, you can do that. If you want to skip trace and call them right in front of the property, you can do that, right? You can get a photo of the property from the front, so you can send them a mailer. Or what I like to do, I told you guys last week, is I like to take a photo of the property at the front, and I like to send it to them via text and say, hey, so I'm outside. Not sure if you knew, but the front windows are broken or whatever, right? I love doing that for absentee homeowners. So it's a rental property that's all beat up. I like to send them a photo and let them know, yo, I'm not just a robot. I'm actually in front of your property, right? So we talked about, obviously, the pros of doing it physically. You have that leverage. The cons of doing that is it takes a lot of your time, right? So how do you be efficient? How do you be how do you scale that, right? Because your time is finite. Time is the non-scalable thing. We all have the same amount of time. So that's the con of doing it physically. But you have the best information because you're in front of the property. Now, obviously, when you look at virtual, the pros is you can be efficient. It's scalable. You can have a virtual assistant do it. And that is how you build, always have driving for dollars as a part of your business. Use an app like BatchDriven. If you guys haven't signed up and you're watching this live, wherever you're watching, you should definitely at least try it out. Because if you go to batchdriven.com/launch, I'm going to type it in here somewhere. I don't see it here. But if you're at batchdriven.com/launch, if you guys go here, you're at least going to get a free week. If you want to stay with it, cool. If you don't want to stay with it, you're like, this app sucks. Great. At least you tried it. It's a great cornerstone to your business because the list is so cheap, right? Only thing it costs you is your time. But obviously virtual is your way to go. We still have this as a part of our business as we do all these different avenues, right? As we cold call all these big lists, or we talk to pre-foreclosures, we still drive for dollars. So it's a great place to get started. If you guys haven't gotten BatchDriven, you can use that link and at least try it for a week, right? And then you can make the decision. But the cons on virtual driving for dollars is sometimes information isn't up to date because the Google Street View isn't updated, right? Maybe the photo is a couple years old. So you can use a satellite view to check, but you don't have the same leverage as if you're out in front of the property. But the reality is, if you want to scale this part, the more scalable model is doing it virtual. But maybe you're right now, I can't pay a virtual assistant to do it virtually, and I have time. So we talked about last week, where are you at right now? Do you have more time than you have money, or do you have a bunch of money but not that much time, right? We talked to a lot of folks that are 9-to-5 jobs. It's tough to find the time to do all these things. But the reality is, if you want to make that transition from a 9-to-5, you're going to have to do something with that short amount of time you have. You can still go door knock from 6 to 8. We had people on our door knocking team that were very, very successful. As soon as they got off work, they went out and started knocking on doors to get deals, right? So I don't believe 9 to 5 is an excuse. You just got to find a way. But again, where are you at with your resources? Is your resource time right now? Great. Because today we're going to talk about physically driving for dollars and how to be more efficient. Okay. I'm going to share with you guys three tips. And then I want you guys to ask questions. So I want to see in the comment section, wherever you guys are at right now, what's working in your business? What's not working? How can we help you? Okay. Please put it in the comment. I want to see some stuff. What's up, Kyle? What's up, Jason? Good to see you guys. So let's do it. Let's go. Let's go over the 3 tips. The 3 tips to being efficient with your physical driving for dollars. You should always be doing it. Again, if you have more time than you have money, this is where you start. But how do you be efficient, right? Because you can definitely just as simple as getting in your car and looking for ugly properties, sure. But how do you be efficient with doing that? There has been practices that we've learned over time that we want to share with you. Okay. So the first thing that I recommend doing, the number 1 tip, is you plan your route out for the entire week on Sunday, right? Or whatever that one day a week is for you. Typically I do it on Sunday because it's my think day. It's my day that I plan. When I was doing this full time, driving for dollars, I would plan it out on a Sunday, because if it came down to me having to plan it out every single day, I'd be super inconsistent with it, and I end up planning it the day of. And then it would be like, oh, well, I'm halfway through the day. Now I got to go drive for dollars. I plan it out for the entire week. And what I would do would be I would just like go by neighborhoods or blocks, right? So in Phoenix, everything is like a nice grid. So I would just pick like a block or 2, and I'd say, okay, I'm going to go in here, this neighborhood today, and I'm going to get as many properties from this particular neighborhood or block, right? It's like typically it's 1 square mile, and I'll hit every single property in those streets in that block. And I'd plan it out for 6 days, and then the 7th day, of course, I would hit it, and then I would replan for the next week. So every single Sunday, without fail, I would plan my routes. And the best way to do it is I would just corner off neighborhoods. Yeah, some days I would get 20. Some days I would get 45. Some days I get 11, right? But it helped me be efficient because I wasn't going back over streets I've already been on. I wasn't hitting the same areas. Like I was literally very methodically working my way mile by mile by mile by mile through these neighborhoods, through these cities. So in Phoenix, you don't just have the center city of Phoenix. You have Glendale, you have Peoria, you have Paradise Valley, you have Scottsdale, you have Tempe, you have Mesa, you have obviously South Phoenix, Laveen, like so all these places. Methodically, mile by mile by mile by mile, I was going through these neighborhoods. Now, maybe you're like, well, I'm in a very rural area. Well, you can do the same thing. Maybe your area is going to be bigger than a square mile. But at the end of the day, you think about, okay, what can I cover over about an hour and a half to 2 hour period and get a respectable amount of properties, right? Because like if you're in a too rural area, there's not that much like investor activity happening. So maybe virtual is the only way you can go. But I would definitely say plan your routes out 1 week in advance. If like wherever you're at or however you plan on doing it, plan it out a week in advance. So that way you can methodically go through your areas and you make sure you don't miss a street, right? I think that was one of my biggest, I had FOMO for missing streets. It's like, well, I think I've already drove in here, but maybe I took a left and I didn't take a right, or maybe I took a right and I didn't take a left, right? I feel like I'm going to miss something, but by doing it block by block, I was able to not miss anything. Okay. So what happened is it was just less, it turns into less thinking, just more consistency, right? Less of like, oh, let me every single night, let me go ahead and do this and do that. Like consistency is hard with anything. So if I'm trying to be consistent with my cold calling, being consistent with my route planning, being consistent with my text messaging, being consistent with my working out, like whatever, if I have like 7 things that I got to be consistent on, like what's the chance of me falling off on 1 or 2 of those things? Very likely. And then I'm going to feel like I lost my momentum. So when I plan it out a week in advance, it's less time thinking, more time of just being consistent because it's already done. I don't have to do it every single day. It's like I know where I'm going tomorrow because I already planned it out on Sunday, right? So that's what I recommend you guys doing. Tip number 1 is plan your routes out 1 week in advance. Now, tip number 2 is what do you do with those lists? Obviously, physically driving for dollars, you're going to want to call those people, right? If you're not the kind of person that wants to door knock, that's totally okay. You know, door knock when you feel like you get the confidence. I don't want to put anybody in a position where they're like, I don't know if I'm going to do this. But it's funny because I saw some comments in like the Creative Finance Facebook group today, where it was like a guy's like, you know what? I'm not putting any money in this. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing that. I've been trying to get a deal in this for a year, so I'm not going to do it until I get a deal. It's like, well, what are you doing? Like, it should not take you a year to get a deal if you're really working. I'm sorry. We're going to be very honest here. It should not take you a year if you're really doing this business. If you're doing the stuff that makes you uncomfortable, right? But if you're hoping for someone else to call or someone else to do it for you, then yeah, it might take a year or two. This may not work, right? But for those guys, are you like, you're watching this? I know you guys who are watching this today are the kind of people that want to make it happen, right? You're the kind of folks that are like, yo, I'm going to do this regardless of whatever it takes. And if that's your approach, then why not knock on the door, right? But still, no, it's a lot of apprehension there. And I don't want you to feel lesser than if you're not there yet. And that's okay, right? But then you have to choose one or the other. Reality is both will get you there faster if you're door knocking and cold calling. But if you're not quite there as confidence, I don't want you guys to put you in a position where you feel like you have to do it. Okay, that is up to you. But you should, at the very minimum, text and cold call. I think last week on my Morning Momentum on my YouTube channel, I was talking about the path of least resistance to getting your first deal. You can always text and then cold call. Like, text, find the people that say yes, or I do want to sell, or X amount. Great. Then have a call with them. So it's not really a cold call. It's more like a warm call or something like that, because the person's already said that they wanted to sell. But you guys, you're physically driving for dollars. How do you be more efficient? You plan your route out a week in advance. You built this list. Do you one-off call them? Do you call them right in front of your property? Of course, you have the opportunity to do that. But if you guys want to add more property and be efficient while you're out in the field, or maybe you still have a limited time because you need to go prospect, or you have other things. Some of you guys are students and you're still going to school. Some of you guys have the 9-to-5 jobs. Some of you guys work these weird shifts. You have other commitments. So you want to make sure when you're out driving for dollars, it should not take you all day. It should not take you 3-4 hours. You can really do some real damage within an hour and a half, right? You can really add a lot of properties within an hour and a half. Now, where does the magic come? Does not come from adding properties to a list, right? There's no magic in the list. The magic comes from actually calling the list and talking to people, or door knocking, or both. But for being efficient with physically driving for dollars, because you want to be efficient with your time, export your list once a week. So what I recommend you guys doing, so for tip number 2, you export your list once a week. So that same day where you're planning your route out for the next week, right? The same day you're planning that route. So you're like, okay, I'm going to hit this block, and then on Tuesday I'm going to hit this block, and Wednesday I'm going to hit this block, and Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. When you finish your last day, maybe that's in the morning, maybe you go Sunday morning. And then for me, it was always Sunday. So maybe I would go out Sunday morning. I would already be done by 10:30 in the morning. I would then export my list for the entire week. I wouldn't export Monday on Tuesday, Tuesday on Wednesday. I wouldn't do it every single day. I'm building the list for the entire week. And then on Sunday, once I've finished my day 7 of my plan, going block by block by block, I'll export that list on that day. And I prepare it to be called so my next week's prospecting, if that makes sense. So the same day that I'm planning my route for the next week, I'm exporting my list from the previous week. Okay. So all the data that I got, I export it, and I'm planning my route for next week. Cool. So now I have a brand new list of people to prospect from Monday to Sunday the following week from my previous week, right? So next week, I'd be calling the people that I added this week, and then so on and so forth. And we keep that same process for our virtual assistants as well. The same stuff that I did is the same stuff my VAs do, right? So as they go out and they're virtually driving for dollars Monday through Friday, they're 5 days a week. They're not 7. They're not business owners. They don't care as much as I do, right? They Monday through Friday, they're adding their properties. And on Friday, I export that list on their last day. So you would do the same. On your 7th day, if you're going out driving for dollars, again, if you don't have any leads, you don't have any deals, you should be doing it 7 days a week. Any way to get started, because I guarantee you make this stuff happen, you get going, it's going to change your life. Okay, so do whatever it takes. So that's what you do. Tip number 2, export your list once a week. Tip number 1, plan out your week on a Sunday or a Monday or whatever day you guys want to do it. Tip number 2, you export your list only once a week. So that way you have a good list. You have a good amount of people to call and text for the week. And you're going to go through it once. Matt, do I call it again? Absolutely. You go through it again. Matt, do I call it again? Absolutely. Over and over and over. Because just think about it, guys. How many people is going to answer the phone the first time you talk to them? right? Or the first time you call them. Not that many, right? You're going to call, you're going to call, you're going to call, you're going to call, and it has to be the right time, the right moment. Just someone saying, yes, I'm going to answer this number from someone I've never seen before. This is a weird number. They're not saved to my phone. You're banking on that person to answer the phone. And a lot of people's like, well, Matt, I already called the list. It's like, yeah, but just think how many people like you called in the right moment. How you guarantee, like if you added 500 properties, how many people are going to answer the phone the first time through? Not that many, right? So you go through it over and over and over and over and over until you get as many people on the phone as you possibly can. I mean, so even like some of our bigger list guys, we recycle that thing like 6 times before we put it on ice. So if you have a smaller niche list, these people have ugly properties. Whatever it takes to get someone on the phone, you recycle that thing over and over and over and over. And what I mean by recycle is within our dialer, if you use call tools, any dialer has the same feature. You recycle the list. So that same phone list, I can recycle it and say, all right, of this phone list, I want all the people who didn't answer, at the time said they weren't interested, what the call was abandoned, or call got disconnected, like whatever. I can recycle based on those things, and it would pull out the people who, fit that criteria. And typically of a list of 500, it might be 396. It might be, 400. It's a good amount of people. And then the list gets smaller and smaller and smaller the more you recycle. But it's consistency and timing. So you got to get these people over and over and over and over. Okay. So that's tip number 2. Export your list once a week so you can call them the next week. All right. Tip number 3. This is something that a lot of investors here in Phoenix do. I know some of the gurus or durus or whatever you want to call them, they do this at a high level because they have leverage. They just have a team of bird dogs, right? So a lot of times when people can't pay for their learning, they can't pay for, whatever, their mentorship. They say, okay, we'll just go find some properties and bring them to me and we'll work together and it'll be a learning process, right? But how do you implement this in your business, right? How can you have a team of bird dogs that'll go out that you can pay commission? You can do it 2 different ways. Number 1, are you doing deals, right? So tip number 3, you need a bird dog or your team of bird dogs. This is how you this is how you add time, right? Because how much time do you have in a day? It's really unlimited depending on how many people you have working with you, right? So if you have a team of bird dogs, you just maximize your time like times 1, times 2, times 3, times 4, times 5. But how do you do that without paying them per property, right? So it's 2 ways if they're getting paid commission. Number 1, if you're doing deals already, then they can learn from you. You can be like their mentor, guru person, right? Because if you're doing deals, the greatest leverage you have is like, dude, 100%, go out. I'm going to show you how to drive for dollars. You're looking for the ugliest ones. This is how you cold call. Here's the script. Get some leads and bring them to me, and we'll go on the appointments together, and you can see how I close the sellers. You can see how I talk to the sellers. It's exactly how we bring people into the door knocking team, right? So if you're doing deals, you have the knowledge and the know-how to do that with these folks, these bird dogs, right? And the greatest thing about this is there's not that much apprehension. Anybody can build this list on their own time. The thing about commission people is a lot like if they don't see it and they don't like stay with it, they're going to be very inconsistent. So if you're doing the commission route and you're doing deals, like this is a great place to get started because you can be their mentor. They go out, they're just going to talk to a few people. It takes that off your plate of having to prospect all the time as far as like cold prospecting, and you can work on the higher leverage conversations with people who want to sell. The challenge is a lot of you guys have never done a deal and you're wanting that to happen, that scenario. Well, if you're not doing deals, you've never sat in an appointment and you don't have the leverage quite yet, you will get there, I promise. But if you don't have that quite yet, then like, how are you going to expect someone to just get paid commission on someone that's basically on the same level, right? So what you do is the second way, if you're not doing deals, is you do the prospecting for them. So they're going out, they're building this list, they're spending time, but just like most people, they're afraid, they're apprehensive to get on a cold call. You're not, because you're here today. You're like, I'm going to do whatever it takes. Perfect. So instead of them, if you're doing deals, it's realistic to think that they can call, they can prospect and give you warm opportunities. If you're not doing deals, then it's realistic that you would do the calling, you would do the prospecting to the list that they're building, right? So it leverages your time. You're calling on your list and you're calling on their list. So now you have double the opportunities, right? You have double the opportunities to talk to somebody to get a deal done. And the greatest thing is you can pay them a bird dog fee. Maybe that's 20% of the deal. Maybe that's 30% of the deal, right? That's a great place to get started. That's how you leverage your time, right? So tip number one, guys, was what? Tip number one is planning your week out, planning your whole entire route out a week in advance. Tip number two is exporting that list once a week. And tip number three is getting some bird dogs. Now, remember, like, of course, the gurus here in Phoenix can expect someone to go out, prospect, find these properties, and then bring them opportunities to either help close or JV on. But if you're not there yet, like you haven't done some deals that you can leverage when you're talking to folks saying, let's do. Again, I know you guys will get there, but how you provide value to those people that are going to get paid commission, you provide value to them in the way of you're going to do the hard work. You're going to be the brave one that's going to get on the phone and call these people and create opportunities. They get to learn how it's done. They see that you're a go-getter. So guess what happens? After you start working together on getting some deals, after you guys start working together, what's going to happen? They're going to make some money and they say, oh my gosh, this is real. Let's continue working together. They're going to continue bringing you opportunities until they get to the point where they feel confident enough to do it on their own. Guys, look, most people who start this business don't want to work for anybody, and that's okay. But what you can do is start creating amazing relationships with folks that, hey, what's going to happen? Literally, I get text message from a couple of my old door knockers right now of people who they want to do deals together because of the value that I provided up front, being a go-giver, being like, hey, how can I help you? Right? Bring some opportunities. Let's make some money together. The only thing that I would ever want is when you go off and you do your own thing, maybe we can work some deals together. Maybe we can JV on some, right? And they're like, dude, definitely. Like, this is life-changing stuff right here. So you can do that for these people, regardless of wherever you're at. If you're not doing deals, you know you can't be fancy. You're going to do whatever it takes. So you're going to be brave and you're going to call all the list, right? Or door knock all the list. And if you're already doing deals, you can find people that just bring you opportunities because they see it. They know that you're doing it. You already had the skills to close. So it's going to be up to you to perform. I would always get, like, when our door knockers would set appointments, I'm like, all right, I got to perform, right? It's game time. Because if I don't close their leads that they set appointments for me from door knocking, I feel terrible because they just busted their tail to get these opportunities. I got to be the best I can be for them, right? So that's where you got to be too. You got to be to the point where you have that confidence that you can do it for them. And once you get there, everything starts to open up. So that's how you scale your physical driving for dollars. You don't have to go all virtual. You don't have to get a VA. You can take those 3 easy tips and start implementing in your business. So guys, that's what I wanted to cover today on our BatchDriven Live. If you got some value today, please give me a thumbs up. Please share it. I got a couple things here. What's up, Roland? I had a question. What is the difference between batch leads and batch skip tracing? And do you need either of those if you use BatchDriven? So Roland, they're together. So if you get batch leads, you can have the stacker, right? Which stacks your data set. You like all of our data sits into batch leads. Okay. All of our data, like almost 1 million records, sits in batch leads. And when I pull in new data, because I can use batch leads to pull a new, like a list, kind of like what you would see on PropStream, but it's all in one platform. I can pull that list, and within batch leads, I can like select all of them and just click the button skip trace, and it's skip trace all within the same platform. So I'm not moving data all over the place. I just keep it in one spot. So that's the reason of batch leads. We still use it with BatchDriven. BatchDriven is made for like in the field, driving for dollars, door knocking, being efficient, leaving notes, taking photos. You can even send mailers. You can even send small text. You can send text campaigns within BatchDriven. You can do a lot of stuff. But the thing is, I want that data from the list that I'm building in BatchDriven to go into my hub of data, which sits in batch leads. So then I can market to it in different means. Maybe I want to take that data and put it in my power dialer. Maybe I want to take that data and put it in like RVM campaigner. Maybe I want to take that data and retarget it some way, right? I put it into batch lead so I can make that determination. I get it out of BatchDriven and put it in there. So I hope that helps in regards to that. Henry, what's up, man? I got to say I gained so much momentum and now I'm consistent. Let's go, dude. I hope at the very least you started building a pipeline and you see what it's going to take to get this deal. And that's what it's all about. Just got to work. That's it. And the hardest part about this business is just being consistent. I talk to a lot of folks and they're always like, they'll get a deal, but then the action it took to get the deal, they just fall off on the consistency, right? Sometimes people, they'll get a deal in title and they think they've made it. Now they're ready to scale. It's not the case, man. You got to stay consistent with all those actions to build up that foundation, to build up that base. But it can be done, brother. And I'm excited that you got some momentum. You got to take so much action in the beginning to get that ball rolling. But I promise you, all the action it takes you to get your first deal gets a little bit easier on the second, a little bit easier on the third, fourth, fifth, sixth, and so on and so forth. As long as you stay doing the things that got you there, don't get fancy, and it's gonna pop off for you. I promise, guys. That's Batch Driven today. That's Batch Driven Live. If you got some value from today, you're going to start implementing these 3 tips. Let's make it happen. If you got any questions for me, please reach out, mattbeard@vahub.com. I'm here to help you. If you need door knocking scripts, I got them. Cold calling scripts, I got them. If you just have some questions, please reach out to me there or shoot me a DM on Instagram. It's @MatthewBeard_. I'm here to help you guys. Whatever you need. Again, I hope you got some value from today. If you did, please head over to my YouTube channel, Matthew Beard. Hit subscribe, or if you're not subscribed to the Batch Driven YouTube channel, all the lives go there. They're always on record, so you can watch them again. And of course, Bryce goes live every single weekday at 4:30, so be sure not to miss those. I appreciate you guys coming, tuning in, participating, being a part of this. It's about 30 minutes. I always look forward to doing these on a Friday. You guys know what time it is. I always say this every single week. Friday, Saturday, Sunday is the day to get in front of sellers because they are going to be home. Go make it happen, guys. Go take some massive action. Let's do this. Peace.